Welcome back to New to Medical Device Sales. I am your host, Jacob McLaughlin, and today I am bringing you all a very special guest that you guys are going to be able to learn so much from. And he's just an amazing guy, amazing father, amazing husband, and somebody who has a plan. So today we get the opportunity to have Maddox Hargett, who is 27 years old. He's a veteran. Actually still in the military, leaving the military now and going into med device sales. Been in for 4 years. He's 27 years old, and he just broke in with one of the largest med device companies in the world. We're going to dive way more into it here in a second. But Maddox, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Jacob. I'm extremely excited to be here and get to talk to you a little bit.
Yeah, man, it's fun to have you. Like we were talking about a little bit off air, like you listening to the first time, and now it's kind of full circle of where you're at here on the podcast. And we were talking even the other day where I remember my first call with you. I was out driving, I was doing stuff with Innovis, and I'm driving out to California, and you and I are going through the desert, and I'm coming out of service. You're on the phone just to see where you're at today, man. It's a lot of fun, and we're going to dive into it. But I just know so many people are going to be able to learn so much from you because of just how you carry yourself as a man, as a person. But first off, always going to say thank you for your service. Have people in the military and friends and family, and I just it means a lot. So first off, thank you. But second off, I know it's going to make a big difference to a lot of people in the military that we get a lot of people reaching out and kind of what's that look like. So can you just kind of go into a little bit of who is Maddox? Like tell us a little bit about yourself before, getting to 27. What's that look like? Where'd you go to college? All that good stuff.
So I was born and raised in a very small town in Mississippi, just nothing to do there. I went to Mississippi State University and graduated in 2020. The day I actually graduated was my ship off date. So that's the day I skipped the graduation to get sent to basic training and do all that. And that's where I've been since 2020. I've always been interested in the military. I've always wanted to just kind of be a part of something bigger than myself. Ever since high school, I was really looking at it. And the weirdest part is I was sophomore year of college. I was just like in my apartment, and it just really hit me that I just needed to commit and do this. And I always knew I was just going to do one contract. I was going to do 4.5 years, but I knew that if I didn't jump in and commit, I'd look back the rest of my life and regret it and always wonder what if. So I just, decided then and there to make that jump and just go for it.
Absolutely love it, man. And like that's something that's huge because you did the same thing here, right? It's
Right.
like you knew it was coming, but you're like, hey, I'm not going to sit here and wait. I'm going to prep and I'm going to prepare. And can you kind of just talk what that is for you? Because again, you're married, you're a dad, like you have kids, like all the stuff, but it's come before that, right? Of like you now just always prepping kind of like this, like, hey, I'm going to commit, I'm going to go all in. It may not happen today, but can you kind of just talk about your process and your thought process? Because honestly, man, there's not a lot of people who are like you and think of that way. And I think a lot of people could actually like benefit from that.
Yeah, so everything that I've gone into in my life, I wanted to be the most prepared for it in any way. I wanted to be the most prepared person pretty much in the room.
Yeah.
So in terms of military, like I said, I started really getting ready sophomore year of college. I had 3 years of getting myself ready, just waking up early, going and working out, doing crazy workouts. I started networking for the military. I would reach out to people, talk to them. I'd go and I'd had lunch with people in the unit that I was wanting to enter into just to talk to them. I want to know the good, the bad, and the ugly before
Yeah.
I actually get into there, just to know what to expect. And that's I did that, and then fast forward, and then that's what I decided to do with medical sales. I wanted to know the good, the bad, and the ugly. I wanted to be the most prepared person in the room in terms of getting into the industry.
Yeah, man. And I absolutely love that because you guys, just so you know, Maddox is someone who he wasn't our person who broke in 2 weeks, 4 weeks, right? He came to us and he was like, hey, man, I have over a year before I can even think about it, or maybe even a little more. And you're like, hey, but this is something that I want to do. Hence why we did all the self-paced and all the stuff. And you're an exception of staying in longer because again, we knew why would I have you wait when you're someone who is preparing. And now again, because of it, you get a really cool story. Can you kind of just tell that story of what it was like, what you told me the other day of like when you got your offer and all that good stuff?
I'll back up a little bit
Yeah.
and say that it was, I believe, I could be a little wrong here, but I believe it was January of 2023 whenever
Yeah.
I reached out to you and we got on the phone and I think I told you like I want to let you know that I'm not going to be getting into the industry until my contract's over, which is the end of 2024. So
Yeah.
I don't want to be a part of your statistics because I'm only going to just hurt it really bad. You let me into the course, and I just started trying to gain as much knowledge as I could. Obviously, with the military, there was months on end whenever I didn't even get on the course. I know that you switched platforms for the course, and then I
Yeah.
was I think I got kicked out of the course. I think I messaged you and I was like, you got to send me the new link.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
When we did the updated, and just so you guys know, like that was one of the things like with Maddox is like, again, he got in when he could because, again, as you guys know with life and business, just so you guys know, the more results we get, the price goes up, the more demand that comes from it, right? So he was able to be like, hey, because for example, if he would have come in now, you'd be paying a lot more money, right? Like it's just life. And so he knew that and thought it through. And so, yeah, so then he's seen the updates that we've done and helped even more people, but we change platforms to make it even better user friendly for everyone and all the stuff. So I just want to put that out there because again, you also just being smart and proactive, as I always tell people, this is never me being like, hey, it's a sales tactic trying to get you guys. It's just like, hey, you know, the price is different when I only had 5 testimonial videos compared to when we have hundreds of testimonial videos. And when I only had, 5 guests to now we have hundreds of guests. Like there's different values to that. So I just want to put that out there.
right, right. And I'm very lucky that I, jumped on and did it when I did for sure. But yeah, and then fast forward, and of course, as I'm getting to the end of my contract, that's whenever I really jump into the course hard,
Yep.
start networking a lot, and then it worked out in just such a great way. Where whenever I was in my meeting to get the paperwork saying like I'm clear of the army, about 5 minutes after I left that and got in my car, I got the call from the hiring manager giving me a verbal offer. So, of course, that day was full of a lot of anxiety just with
Yeah.
getting out and then the pending, if I get the offer or not. And then just like that, like 10 minutes apart, it's just a huge weight off of your shoulders.
Dude, it just makes me happy. It makes me smile and it makes me laugh because again, you told me that was literally the goal is like, hey, I want to have something lined up for my last day when I'm done and like just to see how God worked and how you did it. And also a lot credit goes to you, man, because you pre-planned, you did the work. Like you said, there were some months that you're like, hey, I'm not going to be here because I just have military, I got deployments, I got stuff I got to actually do. But when I'm able to, I'll jump on and you did a great job, man. And like one thing that's why I want everybody to just hear you is like, dude, you're a young dude who's hustler, but also like in the military, married with a kid, right? And the reason I just say that and I want people to hear me is like anybody who's single with no kids, have your excuse for me. You can't do it, right? Like I just say you just don't want it enough is if that's the case. Because man, like you're someone again in the military, traveling, in deployments, coming back, having a family, having a kid, like being a great dad, like having time and still making this happen because it was a goal. And so I just want to put you and just say great job to you. There's not a lot of people who think that way. And there's, again, you're one of those dudes that I truly respect because you don't play the victim. You don't play the why me, oh, this is going on, all the stuff. You're just like, hey, this is what it is. This is my circumstances. Let's go get it. Like, and I'm excited for it. Right. So I want to just applaud you on that one because, again, that story is probably one of my favorites ever of any student I've ever worked with and member I've worked with because of the fact of like, you had a plan and you literally executed to a T to literally on the day you got your papers to get out, like you got the verbal offer with a top company. So that's amazing. But I want to backtrack just a little bit because again, so you're in the military, man. Like you said, you reached out to me in 2023. What was that thing that was like, hey, what the heck is medical device sales? Maybe I want to do this. Like what brought you to that point?
If we back up even further in
Yeah.
2021, that's whenever I first heard about it. My
Yep.
cousin works in medical sales for durable equipment up in Charlotte, North Carolina. He's who first told me about it. And of course, I was like, never heard of that in my life. I don't know what that is. So I've started doing a little research. I think I started calling a couple of people here and there just to figure out what it was.
Yeah.
And that's whenever I stumbled across the podcast and I would listen to it, but I listened to a couple of episodes and I'd like it, but then I'd have to go do some military stuff, and then I'd come back and I just always found myself just continuing to go back to the New to Medical Device Sales podcast. And that's whenever I told you, like, every night I'd get home, I would walk my son, I'd stroll my son around the neighborhood, and that's the podcast I'd be listening to. So my interest just kept growing and growing. My company was on a training event, and something happened where I won't go like into the details, but it pretty much let me see the impact that one can have from being like in the OR and helping people out. And I really wanted to help people out in that capacity and in that environment. So that's whenever it really clicked for me. And I was like, okay, it's time to commit. And that's whenever I reached out to you.
Love that, because again, it is one of those things, like I say to everybody, I didn't know what med device sales was 5 years ago. And I was personal training. And then someone's like, have you ever thought of med device sales? I'm like, what the heck is that? Right. And then all I had to hear was like, oh yeah, a lot of people make like $200,000. Like the woman I knew, she was like, I'm making 200 grand when I was 26. And I'm like, I'm 25 and I ain't making anywhere close to that. You know what I mean?
Right.
So the reason I'm just saying that, but again, then you learn more. And like you said, though, it's like you realize you can sell something that you can have an impact and make a difference in someone's life and truly change someone's life and even save someone's life, right? And like one thing that we talk about in the course and what you guys are doing, but like, yeah, there's a lot of selling that goes on and people get scared of selling. But just so you guys know, if you don't like selling or you think selling is like scammy or there's bad people, it's just because they suck. Like it's not doing it. Like a real good sales rep and a real salesman and saleswoman, like what they do is they find a need and they fit the need. If they can't fit it, they don't do it. Right. And so I just want people to hear me and that, because again, like, just so you guys know, I always have the conversation with our team. Like the reason we have values and a mission statement is because that's what drives us. And if that doesn't go with us, we can't do anything. Right. So it's like, we're always talking about being ethical, we're being driven, and we're being caring. And like, if we can't do those three things with the person, or they tell us, they have a goal, but it's like our mission statement is to help driven individuals break into med device sales and make a positive impact. It's like, if people just want to get in and they don't want to like top performance stuff, we're not the place for them. We're like, okay, please go somewhere else. It's like, we're only going to be able to help you. So I just want people to hear that, because when Maddox like talking that way, is like, you have to pre-plan it, but like you get the opportunity to come into med device sales, sell something that's cool, a lot of great technology. It's going to make a positive impact on someone's life. And everyone gets scared of their like, what do I need to know for sales? Like all the time. Is it the Challenger sale? What technique? Is it STAR? And I'm like, throw it all away. Like I don't use, just so you guys know, I don't use any of that crap. I was a personal trainer. I know how to talk to a human being, and let's find out what they're going through, what's their need, and can I even help that need?
And a big part of it is also you have to really care, right? You have to care about the patient as well. Because I was telling somebody this the other day, just with life and whatever job you have, there's going to be days when you're super pumped to go into the office or to the OR or something, but there's going to be the days when you're feeling sick or you're just tired and you're like, dude, I do not want to go in at all. Like I want to call in sick. And that's whenever it drops to how much you actually care. I can be like, oh, I'm sick and stuff, but I really care about what I'm doing, what that the team needs me and what I need to do for them and for the patient. So that's what's going to end up pushing you.
I love that, man. And you're so right, because we say this all the time again, if it's just for the money, please do something else, right? Because you can do something else and make more money. Like we always say, you can go into, like solar sales, you can go make money and do stuff, right? It doesn't matter what you do, right? The reason I'm just saying that to you guys is Maddox brings up a great point, and this goes out to a lot of my younger people out there. I think there's a lie that gets told to everybody is like, you have to love every aspect and every moment of every day of your job. Let me just make your life easy. Won't happen. There's going to be things that you do in life that, like, even with a job, like I love what we do. I love the company I have. I love getting to help people. But there are certain things, like meeting with a CPA or meeting with lawyers or doing stuff that I would just rather not do. But it's part of what comes with what you do, right? So I just want to put that out there, because again, like my mom and my dad, we would always have talks about it. And then middle class, like my mom's a nurse, my dad was a truck driver, like just had great conversations. But the reason I'm just saying that is like, can you just like it the majority of the time? Do you feel fulfilled of it, right? That we're all going to have days where you're like, screw this, or I'm tired, I don't want to do it. But like you said, in our mission statement is help driven individuals break into med device sales while making a positive impact on others is exactly what you said. The number one focus is always the patient on the table. Because, and why I say that is because I always look at it as that's my mom, that's my dad, that's my grandma, that's my aunt, that's my brother, that's my sister, that's my nephew, whoever it is. And that's why that person matters the most. But then I always say this because if you focus on them, they'll make you do one more, right? Like you can go and it can't just be about you, right? And if you're making a difference for your son and your family, it's going to make you do one more. It can't just be about you at all times, right? But then if you do a good job and you focus on that patient and give them the best patient care, you know what I can promise is going to happen from that? You're going to get a lot more doctors, a lot more patients because people will talk about it. And then guess what? You're going to hit quota. And you hit quota, you're going to make money. You make money, you can go bless yourself and you bless your family's life. Then the best part of like what we talk about is you do that, then you can get more money and bless other people, right? That's why we work with foundations, nonprofits, stuff like that. But again, it's all about the bigger picture, not just the one thing. And that's one thing, Maddox, you've always been really good at is just seeing the bigger picture and like being able to do that. Because again, that's why you make the moves that you do, right? Because if you were just like reactive, we would be in a different spot. But where you're at, this is where I just love because you are proactive. You are very intentional. I think so. Word that comes to mind when I think of you is you're very intentional in the actions that you take, man. That's what leads to your success. So, all right. So you are like, hey, med device sales is what it's going to be. You listen to the podcast, which first off, love that it was helpful with you. And like, again, guys, like just to everyone listening, it means the world to be like, hey, Maddox walking his kid and he's listening to me. Like, I'm glad that our stuff has provided value. But then you get in the course and then, dude, you had life. You were in the military, you're doing this stuff. So what was it like balancing being in the military, being a husband, being a father, like all this stuff, being a son, like just being in life and still doing everything? What was that like for you?
Right. So, I mean, first, like, I couldn't have done it without my wife, obviously. She was a huge supporter because there was a lot of times that it was not easy,
Yep.
for me to like put more time away from them to pursue this. So I have to, thank her. Um, but I mean, I was just extremely hungry. I wanted it. Like
Yep.
I knew like, yeah, it sucks right now. Given like so much time towards, I guess, career instead of, family whenever I don't see them a lot. But I knew that in the long run, it would definitely pay off. So it
Yeah.
was just pretty much keeping that view in sight a little bit, knowing that this is going to be hard for a few months, a year, maybe 2 years, but 5 years from now I'll be able to look back and be very grateful that I put up with that to be where I'm at.
Yep, man. And that's why, just so you know, that's why you're going to be so extremely successful in this industry and just in life, man. Because most people, I've talked with a lot of mentors, I've talked to a lot of millionaires, I've talked to a lot of people in that realm financially successful, and it's always comes back to the delayed gratification. Can you put off today what you're looking for in a couple months, couple of years? And that's what you're doing right now. But you've been able to do that multiple times to get where you want to. But it's also why, just like when you're like, hey, I want to be able to have a job by the time I'm out in the army. And then now you made that happen, right? It's going to be the same thing of, yeah, you're going to make some sacrifices the next couple of years in med device sales to get yourself started. But like 2, 3, 4, 5 years from now, like that's going to be freaking great. You're going to have a lot of fun. And that's the best part, man. And that's why I just, again, going back to being very intentional on what you think and how you think is like, it's being able to do that because guys, just so you know, that's why we're here, right? Same thing. Like I say this all the time, but I was in med device sales running multiple businesses, doing very well financially. And my brother, who was making 50K, was living a better lifestyle than me. Like I was just like living with roommates, doing all the stuff because it's like, what was the bigger picture? What was the bigger goal? And especially, I think you're someone as well. Like when you just come from like normal roots, it's like you don't need a lot of stuff to be happy. You realize relationships is really what it comes down to, friendships, relationships. So again, man, I think you do a really good job at being able to push that, but that's what's getting you to where you're at right now. Because I can already sit here and tell you, man, it ain't going to take 5 years to get you where you want to be. But it's really cool to just see you making those moves. And now it makes me ask, what do you feel like when you were going through that process? Because again, it was a longer term. It was like, hey, I'm making some sacrifices. What do you feel like the hardest part of that was?
Being patient.
Yeah.
That was difficult.
Yeah.
Being consistent. I mean, whenever I really started getting closer to the end of the contract and I really started picking up on reaching out to everybody on LinkedIn, I reach out to 100 people on LinkedIn a day. I'm getting about 10 replies maybe,
Yep.
right? So, I mean, there'd be days whenever I just get ghosted completely, or a week
Yep.
where I get ghosted completely, and then that next Monday rolls around, and I'm like, nobody, what am I doing here? Like nobody's even answering me. I can't even get on a call, much less like get an interview. So,
Yep.
just being consistent because like you always say, it only takes one, right? Like
That's
you
it.
you, you get on you get on that call and you talk and then you have something in common with somebody and you really get along with them and then the next thing you know they're kind of reaching out to people for you and then
Yep.
and then it's just growing that spider web
Yep.
and then it's just growing your network and another thing is when you're talking to people, don't just do it to check off a box,
Come
right?
on.
You
Come
got
on.
to listen to what they say. You have to, care about what they say. They're
Yep.
already where you're at, so they know way more than you. Got to care about what they say. And then you have to follow up, not just saying, thanks for talking, text them 2 weeks later and be like, hey, just wanted to give you a quick update. This is where I'm at in the process. Thanks again
Yep.
for your help. And that's like
Yep.
all it takes just so they know that you still appreciate everything they've done for you.
Yep. And you're still hustling. That's what people
Right.
miss is like you doing that is like it's showing that you're still being proactive. It shows that you're still doing the work instead of like most of you guys who are listening. You're like, I sent a message to one person once. Like I always say, my dog can do that. I can press send for my dog, right? But the reason I'm just saying that is you're 100% right, man. Is like the patience is the hardest part when we have to have this talk with everybody, right? Like we want it today. But again, it's can you do something today, tomorrow, next week? But one thing I want to touch base on for everybody is just what Maddox said is one of the hardest parts is people that come into the program and what we're teaching is like that's sales, man. Like you getting 10 people out of 100, that's actually that's 10%. That's actually a pretty good reach out on cold calling, right? You know what I mean? And sometimes when I used to go cold call on an office, I'll never forget the day I went 6 for 6. And it just made me want to be like, I'm going to another one. It's 4 p.m. I don't care. I'm gonna go try another one because I'm like, I'm on a roll. But dude, like there's days I would go 0 for 7 or I'd go 1 for 7, right? Like that's part of it. Number one, but number two is like you said, the biggest thing I want you guys to always hear my heart on in medical device sales and any sales, it's like baseball, right? They talk about it. You strike out the majority of the time and get out the majority of the time, and you can still be a Hall of Famer. No different than sales, right? Like so you know, if you're like closing deals at like a 20, 30%, you're like, holy crap, this guy is amazing, right? Like that's what people miss. And so just being able to go through those conversations of like, hey, you're not going to win. Like I had this talk with our program and just to have you guys think about it, it's like, when I was at Innovis, it's like, hey, we had capital and disposable, right? Same at Medtronic, we have capital disposable. So when you get the disposable, it's easy because you're going to have usually money coming in weekly, daily, monthly, like it's cool. But capital is like normally, because even you'll get two quotas, but capital is what drives it. Because when you have something that's 30, 50, 70, $100,000, that puts a chunk into your quota way easier than, 300 bucks, $1,000, right? I actually just saw a funny TikTok where it's like a dump truck pouring stuff into a massive hole. And it's like when you close a $6,000 deal for a $500,000 quota, like does nothing, right? So the reason I'm just telling you guys that is you have to think about out of the big term in that year, that's probably 30, 40 deals that hits that quota, right? Like, yeah, you're going to have the little tiny ones, but like actual, like it could be even like as low as 17, 20. That's going to hit that massive quota. So what I'm saying that is why I want you guys to think about is I tell our team this all the time. That means you won 20 times in a year. There's a lot more days than 20 in a year, which means you're not going to win and have that like excitement. And so we're saying that because it's the same thing in medical device sales, right? When you're going through it and you're trying to break in, I always say do the job to get the job because we want to prep you guys. But it's no different than when we're talking about like, I can't tell you, and I know you went through this. You're having a crappy day. You get a call at 3:30 that went great. You're on cloud nine. And you're
Right.
like, holy crap, it happened. That's sales. That is it. But also, you had a great call. You're on cloud nine, and the next day you get ghosted. Now you're back in the thing. And that's why I always talk about it's like it's a roller coaster. And what we just try to teach our team and our members and everybody that we work with is because I want you guys to have long-term success in the industry and in sales and just in life. It's because this is even just life advice. It's a roller coaster. There's going to be ups and downs, but what you got to remember is don't let the highs get too high and the lows get too lows. Things are going great, going up. Guess what? At some point, they're coming back down. Guess what? It's down in the dumps. You have bad things going on. Guess what? It ain't going to keep going down. Eventually, it's going to come back up. So it's just trying to be more steady. And, I work with a lot of people, and this is a lot of big things. Like we talk about, age plays a big role in it. But like, again, I also know a lot of 50-year-olds from back home that are still like 12-year-olds and maturity. So again, maturity is just being able to go, but it's just being able to go in that mature process. And again, not let the highs get too high, stay more steady. Don't let the lows get too low. Know it's going to come and just ride the wave. Right. And again, going back to Maddox and I were talking off air. And I think one of the biggest things that have really helped me in the last several years, but especially the last couple of months, even for myself, is like when you have people in your life that you realize, like I talk about on our office hours all the time. I put something out on the internet and I'll have somebody on these YouTube videos say, "You suck. You're the worst person ever. I hate you. Like, shut your mouth." The comment right below it is, "You're the best. You changed my life. Thank you so much." And I laugh and I'm like, that's the internet, right? Like you guys have to understand it. Not everyone's going to like what you say. Some people will, some people won't. But it's just, do the people that matter the most, is that who looks up to you and says, "Hey, that's a cool dude." And I think that's one thing me and Maddox were talking about. Like, man, he's married. He's got a kid. Honestly, besides like those two people, his family, his friends, and like the hiring manager, who cares what anyone else got to say? Like, again, if you guys, last thing I'll say to that, and then I want Maddox to jump in, is like, you reach out to 100 people on LinkedIn and 95 of them never get back to you. You're never going to hear from them, see them, anything. They are literally like a fake person to you. That's how I looked at it, and I gamified it. That's why I don't like, you guys can't take it personal, because I'll talk to so many people that listen to the podcast and they'll be like, "Nobody responded to me," and they take it like they're attacking them. It's like, no, they just didn't probably see it, or who cares? Like, that's why you just go reach out to a bunch more people, right? And like, you'll never see them. So hopefully that's helpful. But again, man, I just want you to know like that you did it right, for the fact that the patience is the hardest part, but being able to be like, how do I gamify it? But then also like, hey, like you said, it just takes one.
I remember specifically there was times whenever I would get ghosted by, 5 people, and then one person would answer, and then I would be talking to them like 2 days later, and they'll be like, "Oh, you need to reach out to this person." I was like, "Oh, I tried to." They ignored me, and they're like, "Oh." But so it's really fun, and a lot of people, I would say this, don't necessarily check like LinkedIn or something a lot. So,
Almost never, right? Like this, just so you guys know, it's everyone's like, "Oh, they have LinkedIn." Let me make this really clear. I just got a message from a very high up at one of the large med device companies when I was still at Innovis. I was working a deal. Reached out to him. He runs a massive organization portion of it, and it was going to be a massive contact, right? I reached out to him in January. We are in September. He just got back to me this month. I don't even work for him anymore. So like, it doesn't matter, but I'm like laughing to show you like the big people and all this stuff, they don't even look at it. So you can't do it. And then one thing I always teach our people in our program is, because everyone will take it personal, and I get it. I've been there, but it's like, we all to ourselves are the most important thing. And I always teach you guys, to the rep, to the manager you're reaching out to, some random human being on LinkedIn wanting a job. Why? They have quota, they have family, they have kids. Their wife just yelled at them to go pick up the dog poop in the yard, and they have a rep who's not performing, and they have quota that's coming down with back orders. Like, just to give you guys an idea of like, you are literally the least important thing on their mind. That's
right.
not to be mean. It's just like, that's reality, and that's how you have to look at it. So to Maddox's point, when he gets on a call and someone's like, "Oh, reach out to them," and you're like, "Oh, I already did." Well, this is the best part. Welcome to how I was able to network, and be like, "Oh yeah, have a great conversation. Would you be willing to send them a text on my behalf and see if I can get on a call with them?" Guess what? They did it. I sent a follow-up message on LinkedIn, and guess what? 2 more days we're on a call, because it's just that follow-up. It's the spider web. It's the touch base. So
I mean, there was times whenever I would reach out to somebody on LinkedIn, say in June, and then they reach back out to me in September saying like, "Oh, hey, sorry, I'm just now seeing this. Will you hop on a call?" And then me and them get along great.
yeah,
So sometimes it just takes them a while, but That's like another thing is don't burn bridges, right? Don't get
Come
mad.
on.
Be like, I didn't want to talk to you anyway, or something
Oh,
like that.
just so you guys know, I've had that. Like I literally had somebody just to an example. I was at San Diego for 4th of July. I'll never forget it. It was 4th of July when they messaged me. And they said, I just found out I have a meeting with Stryker tomorrow. Can you call me? And then gave me their number. And again, just so you guys know, this was when I was at Medtronic. Was starting the business, had a lot going on, right? I did not respond within an hour. They sent one of the most passive aggressive. I guess you think you're too good for me. You're so full of yourself, all this stuff. I got on a call with them because I screenshotted that message. And then guess what? They deleted it 10 minutes later, but I remember it. And I called him back and I said, you are so full of yourself. You are going to get your butt kicked. You think you're the most important human being and you literally don't even have a job or anything. And you should never come off expecting that way. And I just had to come to Jesus moment with them because that's the thing is like many of you need to hear that. You are literally the least important person on these people's mind. That's not me saying you don't have value and you're not an important human being. That's not what I'm saying. But the people you're reaching out to, you're the least important person on their mind. So if you come expecting, which I see many of you guys all do, I gave my number. Why didn't you call me back? Because you don't deserve a call back, dude, because your message sucked. And you're going to get on a call and you're unprepared.
Mhm.
Right? That's what people miss. And then they're like, well, Jacob, I reached out to 50 people and then I didn't get any callbacks, so I didn't get any interviews. I'm like, yeah, because maybe you suck at this. But
Mhm.
that might hurt your ego. That might hurt you because you're not as good as you actually think. Right? And
Right.
that's when the expecting comes compared to you, my man. You didn't come expecting because guess what? You have a lot going on. There's probably things you forget some days and you're like, crap, maybe I forgot to do that because I can sit here and tell you I do that all the time. I'm like, I'm going to message this person back. And then I'm like just today, one of my best friends messaged me a week ago. I forgot to respond because I got 80 calls coming in. And it's like, my bad, dude. Right. So again, I just want to put that out there because Maddox, you're so right on that is don't burn a bridge. And I always want to make that really clear because what people do, again, it always comes back to being selfish. The moment you're selfish, you're going to lose at this game.
You get more real grateful and thankful for the ones that, and like will get on a call with you, talk to you for an hour plus.
Yep.
Will randomly reach out to you the next week, just be like, hey, just checking up, is anything, or just like, hey, I'd love to, get on a call and just talk to you some more about some stuff. Like you get extremely thankful for those types of people too. And it
100%.
kind of balances itself out a little bit.
That's it, man. And that's again, don't let the highs get too high and the lows get too
Right.
low. It's just like,
Right.
hey, just ride the
One
wave.
of those conversations where they want to talk to you and they reach out to you to talk, that equals like that balances out like 100 rejections or 100 people telling you go work at Enterprise.
Yeah, exactly. Go get B2B sales experience, and they don't even do that, right? That just so you know, that's my favorite part of every rep that you guys will all go talk to is they didn't do it, but they're going to tell you because that's what, like literally, we've said this story before. Literally had someone in our program that we helped with no sales experience get into med device sales, and then found out we had people from that were now in the program that reached out to him, and his advice was go get B2B sales experience. And I'm like, dude, what are you talking about? Like, but again, people just get brainwashed. It's the easy answer. And guys, just so you know, that's just them not caring. They're just
Yeah.
like, go ahead.
I mean, I haven't like nobody's reached out to me, obviously. Like I haven't even put it on my like LinkedIn profile or anything that I've
Yep.
gotten a job or anything. I was just waiting until probably like my first day to
Of
actually.
course. Yeah.
I've had like some people talk to me because they know that I'm like about like trying to get in and some people I've actually talked to somebody that was already in but trying to transition to like another role and they asked me what I was doing and like I would tell people about your course and it was funny because I talked to this guy about your course and he was like, "Oh, I need to look into that and all that stuff." And then you posted something like the next day and he liked the message and I was like, "That's what I'm talking about."
Dude, and that's the funny part, man. It goes into it is like, again, that's why we just put all the free stuff out there is I just want to help people, man. And like I said, like you see it, it's an investment, but we're trying to give you so much more than just like, hey, let's break you in, let's get you prepared, let's do all this stuff. But just so you know, just to everybody listening, we know we're not for everyone. And I know I'm not for everyone. Just like when I was personal training, I can't train everyone. That's okay. You know what I mean? Like it is what it is. We just want to deal with really serious people. But Now, Maddox, the big question that everyone's always going to reach out and ask you and then be like, hey, I saw you did the program. I don't want to take the program, but give me all the free advice that you got in and stuff. Just so you know, we all know who you are. I say it every podcast, but we get the screenshots from them. So just so you guys know, you guys are just tire kickers and you ain't going to even do the advice that you get because you've been reaching out to everybody for the last 2 months and still doing it and it hasn't worked. So it's not the actual information, just so you all that are wondering listening to the free podcast. But Maddox, someone's going to reach out to you, be like, hey, man, I have sales experience. I don't have sales experience. What's your advice for me to break into med device sales? What advice you giving to them?
There's a large amount on your podcast that is helpful, right?
Yep.
But your course really good, like just does a deep dive into pretty much each podcast. Because I know that like your modules will have your modules, but then it'll also attach the podcast that's kind of with it. So the modules, just you're doing a deep dive into each podcast pretty much. I would always just tell them they need to commit. They need to, believe in themselves that they think this is actually for them and they want to do it for the right reasons, not just because, it sounds cool and it has a lot of money. And to actually, bet on themselves and commit. And then, and I know you hit on this in every podcast, every module almost is just the networking, which you have a whole module on the networking, but that's just, I mean, it's like playing a dead record. It's so important just to network. Like you're not just going to go apply for 100 jobs and all you're going to do is maybe get an email back saying like we're going another way.
Yeah. A rejection letter saying, oh, thanks for applying. We'll let you know in 6 months or whatever it is, or you're not moving on.
Right. You can't do it without the networking. And then the best way to, learn how to networking is the course. You go into it. I mean, I didn't even have a LinkedIn profile until I started listening to your podcast. Right. So I didn't even really think of that. So that's what I would kind of hit on.
I appreciate it, man. Well, Maddox, I just want you to know, man, I'm so proud of you. Again, just as you are as a man and how you carry yourself, but again, just how intentional you are and how you make your moves. And it's no surprise to have you on this podcast and see the success you've had here, but just know that it's going to continue to come because you are someone who pre-plans, you have a goal, and then you work towards that goal. And so I just want to say from me, congratulations, man, on breaking in with one of the largest med device companies and being in med device sales because you finally did it, dude.
That's right. I appreciate that. That means a lot. It's just crazy. Like working, I remember contacting you for the first time and it felt forever ago, but it's crazy to be sitting here talking to you on this podcast now.
Yeah, well, knowing that it's going to help a lot of people, right? Because like I said, there's a lot of people in the military. There's a lot of people that are like, what's the next step for me? What should I do? Not really sure. We've helped a lot of veterans break into medical device sales. And it's the best, right? Like, and just so you guys know, to any veterans out there, like, or any people in the military, I love working with them because they usually know how to be pretty coachable and they're pretty hardworking. Because otherwise, if they're not, they're probably not going to be in the military for that long. Just want you to know, like, you're a heck of a dude, great husband, great father. Like, I can tell how much you love your family, just by how you carry yourself. But again, knowing that you're going to provide for them and you're going to make a massive difference, not only in med device sales, but for your family. It's just super cool to see. So I just want to tell you congratulations. And also I want to say thank you because to everybody, this is a weekend that we're recording this and Maddox was nice enough to take time away just to be able to film this because he's moving and doing all the stuff. So I just want to personally say thank you so much, brother. Means the world and congratulations on breaking into med device sales.
Yeah, no problem. I'm happy to be here and help anybody out I can. I appreciate that.
Of course, man. And if you guys are watching, if you want to learn more about what we do, you guys can click the link below. You guys can also reach out to us at LinkedIn at Jacob McLaughlin or New to Medical Device Sales. And if you can, press this like and subscribe button. Send it to somebody that you feel like it could be extremely helpful for. And just want you guys to know, we just want to continue to help you. Our average person is now breaking in 8.5 weeks at $105,502. We are no longer the program that's just trying to break you in. We are the program that are getting people in at over 6 figures on average, and it's the absolute best. Absolutely love doing what we do. And so if you guys are really serious, please feel free to reach out. But until next time, keep up the work, keep pushing, keep believing in yourself. And we'll see you on the next one. Peace.